Hello, everyone. I want to make a short video. Uh, I'm going to be reading about 3 verses, I think. It's not a scripture that you hear much. I don't know if I've ever heard it preached in church. I don't, or not. I preached it probably at Meridianville, but somewhere, uh, not many times. I'm going to be in Hosea, or Hosea, Hosea. And I'm going to be in chapter 3, and I'm going to read verse 1 through 3 in the King James Version of the Bible. And it says, Then said the Lord unto me, Go yet, love a woman, beloved of her friend, yet an adulteress, according to the love of God, according to the love of the Lord, toward the children of Israel, who look to other gods and love flagons of wine. I guess that's how you spell that word, Flagons. I call it flagons of wine. So I brought her to me, I bought her to me for 15 pieces of silver, and for an omer of barley, and a half omer of barley. And I said unto her, Thou shalt abide with me for me many days. Thou shalt not play the harlot. Thou shalt not be for another man. So I also be for thee. This is pretty. It's a story about love. It's what I think it's talking about. That's a little 4-letter word that carries with it a lot of power. God is love, and He teaches us to love our enemies. Someone said, "Love is an itch down in your heart that no one can scratch." My grandkids, when they were smaller, they would tell me, "Papa, itch my back." They meant scratch my back, but they said itch my back. God is the author of love. God is love. God is the origin of love. It's not possible. It's not possible to fully understand love without the knowledge and love of God. Unless you got the knowledge and love of God, you cannot understand the depth of love. For if a husband does not love God and know God, for if a husband does not love God and know God, he does not really know how to love his wife. And I've told in the previous video that man and women and woman, they have different languages. One talks love, the woman talks love, and the man talks about respect. He may want to try to love with all his heart and mind, but if he doesn't know the love of God, he just doesn't know the author of God or the origin of God, the origin of love. I remember when I was growing up, there was a song, and it said, "I can't stop loving you," and that's what this reminds me of. Hosea knew that it was risky loving Gomer, but he just couldn't stop himself. Parental love. That's one kind of love there is. It's what the parents has for kids, and kids have for parents. Parents protect, love, and provide for the children. They have that kind of love. God is love, and I want to be more like God. And I have to become more like Him every day. There's about 4 Greek words for love. You can find them in the Wikipedia or whatever. And I want to just kind of touch on them. One of them is agape love. That is true unconditional love. This kind of love is selfless. It's not selfish. It doesn't think about the self. It gives it and expect nothing in return. This kind of love is unconditional. It's love in spite of. And that's kind of the Hosea had for Gomer. That's the kind that God has for love. Agape love is the kind of love that's mentioned in 1 Corinthians 13 and referred to as charity. It's the It's a spiritual and sacrificial love. It's a unconditional love of God. This type of love is not possessive, talking about my this and my that and my something else. My little great grandson, he's a great little boy. I love him with all my heart, but he's in the twos. He'll be 3 in December, and in the twos they learn to say no. In the twos they don't learn to. It's not natural for them to share, and he says it's mine, and it takes a while to work out of that. That kind of love is the right kind of love is long suffering and long lasting, and it's the love that's in spite of and not because of. Then there's a second kind of love. It's eros, eros. It's sort of like love at the first sight. It's sort of like puppy love, you know. In elementary school, boys and girls. Boys don't really like girls that much, or they may be just finding out that they do. And, you know, they write a note like, do you like me? I like you. If you like me, mark yes. If you don't, pass it to the girl beside you or behind you or whatever it says. That's the kind of love that is. Then there's filial. It's brotherly love. Like the city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. This type of love has some give and take in it. And then there's storge, I think it is, it's storage. And it's what parents have for their offspring. I heard a story. This man said he had a lazy boy chair he had bought, and he loved that thing, and he'd sit in it. He'd watch TV a while, and then TV would watch him a while. And one day, he thought that was his chair, and one day he got up to go make him a sandwich, and when he came back, his wife was sitting in that chair. And he said, what are you doing? And she said, I'm sitting in our chair. So that's what love really will. It's especially husband and wife love. Marriage is ours. We don't talk about it. Brother David Jones used to say, he liked that word us's. The Lord told Hosea, if you're going to be a prophet, you must first know how it is to be hurt by someone that you love. That's the way it is in the ministry. If someone hurts you and you close your hand up and won't help them back, to me, you just hadn't got a deep enough love for God's children. So God had Hosea to marry Gomer. But as it happens so many times, the fires on the altar of love begin to cool down. And, you know, Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty wrote a song, I think it said, nothing is cold as ashes after the fire is gone, or something like that. After a while, Gomer, the woman, began to return to the ways that she had been doing. And she had a daughter. And finally, after a while, she just went back to her old life. And Hosea had to raise the children on his own. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. And long last, he sent someone to check on her. And the report come back that she had been sold into slavery. Can you imagine Hosea saying, how much are they asking for? Now imagine he looked they told him, I think 15 pieces of silver, 30, I can't remember. But imagine he looked in the drawers, went out to the barn, thought about all he could sell to come up with a price that they wanted for. He knew probably he knew that she didn't do right, but he just couldn't stop loving her. As the song says, I can't stop loving you. I can imagine that, and you have your own imagination and thoughts on the story, but that Gomer, the wife, said, I'm not worthy to be called your wife with all that I'm doing. And him saying, hush, I can't stop loving you. I told you a story about the little boy in the boat, and I'll tell it again because it reminds me so much of this story. Little boy, Daddy was a woodworker, and he learned a little bit, and he made him a little boat, and he scratched his initials on the bottom of it. And he wanted to see if it would float. He took it down to the little stream, and he put it on there, and the current started going fast and propelled it downstream. And he couldn't get it. So one day he was in town, and I know this is a far-fetched story, but it's just an illustration. He saw his little boat in the window of a shop. He went in there. He went and got his boat. He started out the door, and the shop owner said, where are you going? And he said, this is my boat. And the shop owner said, well, it might have used to have been your boat, but it's mine now, and you'll have to pay for it. The little boy didn't have the money. He put it on layaway, paid it out, and long last, he got it out of layaway, and he started out the door with it, and he started talking to the little boat. He said, you're mine. I made you. I lost you. I paid for you, and you're mine. And that's just the way it was with our Savior. You know, God brought Israel out of Egypt. And before they got 100 miles from the flesh pots of Egypt, they had sinned. God left them in Babylon for 70 years. God sent Noah to try to give the world a good cleaning. But Noah got drunk before the ground got dry. He sent David with his songs. But he fell into sin when he fell in love with Bathsheba, another man's wife. Jeremiah and Isaiah, he sent them, but man just kept right on sinning. They kept on sinning, but God kept on loving him. One day, Justice said to God, why do you keep fooling with man? He ain't never going to do right. God called a conference in heaven. And time said, man has had enough time. I move, give him justice. Mercy said, let one man go down there and straighten it out. Grace said, I second the motion. But God sent his son, the only one. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. So that's what he's talking about. That's what that's talking about. For God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son. Jesus did miracles. He walked on the water. He healed the blind, deaf, crippled. But that's not why he came. He came that the world might be saved. So I hope you enjoyed this story about Hosea and Gomer as much as I do. And I really enjoyed telling you about it. Just think on this and take it out and read it for yourself and see what you get out of it. Until we meet the next time, may God bless you.